Hello and welcome. You're watching Explosive Exclusive. I'm Padmaja Joshi. What transpired in Canada in the last 24 hours clearly indicates that law and order is shaky under the Prime Ministership of Justin Trudeau. Protests took place in parts of Canada where pro-Khalistan activists chanted anti-India slogans, desecrated the Indian flag, tore down posters of PM Modi. India called out Canada once again on the global stage, this time at the United Nations. The External Affairs Minister, first speaking, had said that rule-based order cannot be a one-way street, and subsequently he also reminded Canada, without naming it, that political convenience cannot determine any nation's response to terror, violence and extremism.
One, we told the Canadians that this is not the government of India's policy. Two, we told the Canadians saying that, look, if you have something specific, if you have something relevant, let us know. We are open to looking at it. We've given them a lot of information about organized crime leadership, which operates out of Canada. There are a large number of extradition requests. There are terrorist leaders who have been identified. Our concern is that, it's really been very permissive because of political reasons. I'm not part of the Five Eyes. I'm certainly not part of the FBI. So I think you're asking the wrong person.
Now on to a Times Now mega scoop. We have accessed Hardeep Singh Nijjar's 2016 letter to Justin Trudeau, where he claimed that he is being persecuted by the Indian government. In this letter, accessed by Times Now, Nijjar wrote that the Indian government's allegations against him are false and that he is being targeted because he is a human rights and pro-Sikh activist. In fact, Nijjar also apprised Justin Trudeau that he had urged UN to hold a referendum on Punjab's independence. All right, so let's tell you about what this entire letter is about. This man is a Khalistani terrorist disguised as a plumber in Canada, and in his letter, let's show you what that letter says, the contents of the letter. In 2016, remember, already India had told Canada that Hardeep Singh Nijjar is a terrorist. He is wanted for crimes in our country. However, it seems that Mr. Trudeau chose to believe in what Nijjar says. Let's take you through the contents of this letter, where Hardeep Singh Nijjar says there's an attempt to label my human rights campaign as terrorist activities. He goes on to say that Indian government has been after him, especially since he traveled to Geneva, Washington and New York to protest against what he calls the persecution of Sikhs. He urged the United Nations to hold a referendum on Punjab independence. In 2016, Mr. Justin Trudeau had a choice to believe the evidence that has been given by the Indian government against a man who's a proclaimed offender, or to believe Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who is saying that I believe in the independence of Punjab through future referendum and I am only being persecuted. I'm a harmless little activist for the freedom of Punjab. Guess whose side he decided to take? Let me go take this across to Peter Thorning, who is a legal representative for the Hindu Forum Canada. They also have in fact now written to Mr. Trudeau saying that people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, coming from the same stable as Hardeep Nijjar, are posing an active threat to the Hindu community in Canada, and that people like Pannu should be expelled from the country. Also with us is Dean Baxendale, publisher and columnist and CEO of Optimum Publishing International, and former ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Mr. Baxendale, I want to first ask you, what do you make of the choice that Justin Trudeau made way back in 2016? Because India made it very clear at that point that this man is a proclaimed offender. It seems that he bought into Hardeep Nijjar's narrative that he's an activist under persecution.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on today. You would actually have to understand that Justin Trudeau may well never have read the letter. He may well never have come to his attention. Having said that, the Sikhs who are seeking an independent state within our jurisdiction and in Canada, they certainly have the right in which to express their, political opinions. And that's what we preserve in this country. I think, though, that Justin Trudeau has seen, the situation develop. The Washington Post obviously just reported that this was a much more orchestrated murder of Najir, and certainly has the hallmarks of a state operation as opposed to organized crime. Having said that, organized crime works inside Canada with various governments. And at the same time, India needs to assert itself, protect its country. But also we must recognize that peaceful protest is okay. Niger, on the other hand, seems that there has been a red corner notice that was issued for him by the Indian government through Interpol, and that suggests that he was involved with murders and plots inside India. And I understand today that there was an order to confiscate some of confiscate his house in the region. So the Indian government is reacting. It's putting this on the world stage. But I think there's still many shoes to drop in the investigation and just what's going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And Ashok Sajjanhar, it seems that the choice in front of the Canadian government is very clear at present, has been quite clear for a while. Nobody can accuse the Indians of not having given sufficient evidence. So the choice here is about the quality of evidence, or is it a political choice that Canada is making?
I think it's a political choice that Canada has made. When Justin Trudeau goes to the parliament and says that there are credible allegations. So the police investigation has not been completed as yet. Now, in all democracies, crime investigation is a police matter. It is not a political matter. There doesn't need to be any political interference. Now, this gentleman who spoke before me, he says would have appeared, that there is circumstantial sort of evidence. These criminal investigations don't work on circumstantial evidence. You have to have very incontrovertible evidence. That incontrovertible evidence, Padmaja, has been given by the Indian government to Canada, and they should be taking cognizance of that. They should be acting on the basis of that incontrovertible evidence rather than making these absolutely unsustainable allegations, credible allegations. I think this formulation would be Justin Trudeau's eternal contribution to English language, because I don't think this combination of words has ever been heard earlier. You speak of credible evidence. You never speak of credible allegations. Allegations by their very nature are not credible at all, because there can be huge number of allegations. So I think what the Canadian government has done by this is, number one, it has given greater confidence to the extremists, to the militants, to the terrorists who are in Canada, who are speaking out and who are committing crimes for a separate Khalistan state, for which, mind you, there are no takers in India. There might be takers for that in Canada. There are no takers of a Khalistan state in India at all. They are giving confidence to them that the Canadian government is with us. So we can, with impunity, we can go ahead and continue to, engage in all these criminal activities. And secondly, it is it is removing the attention from taking action on against these people who have come out with posters of Indian High Commissioner, Indian Consuls General, that they are the ones who are responsible for the killing of the terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and we need to take revenge against them.
And it continues today. In fact, just yesterday in Toronto, the protest that happened on the streets again had pictures of our High Commissioner to Canada with slogans asking for him to be removed from the country. This is a direct threat to his safety, and he's not the only one, because Peter Thong, the people you represent, the organization that you represent, now fears a very real danger to its safety and its person. Why is that? Why is that they have asked for the expulsion of people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu from the same stable, of course, as Hardeep Nijjar?
Well, that's not exactly correct. We haven't asked for the expulsion of a person. What we've done is we've indicated that some of the comments that were made that Mr. Penu caused to be circulated online caused some persons in Canada to fear for their safety here in Canada. The comments were hateful. The comments were divisive. The comments were rejected in their entirety by many politicians across the country, and my clients, the Hindu Forum, have requested that the government conduct an investigation to determine whether or not this person would be inadmissible to Canada. We've pointed out in our letter that the kinds of comments that were made may, if they were made in Canada, may have been the subject of a criminal investigation into hate speech. And so that's the thrust
to us as a lawyer, because again and again, when these questions have been put to the Canadian establishment, they said this is protected under free speech. How then are the Hindu Forum calling this hate speech?
We have very, very strong protections for speech in Canada. It is a fundamental freedom, and people are allowed to say things about other people that they don't like. They're allowed to say things that may be challenging to other people's ideals. But when the speech turns into, and this is a very fine line, and only very specific speech qualifies as hate speech. But when that speech turns into hate, and when that speech causes other people to breach the peace, then you might have a criminal offense committed. But I want to stress that that is only the most narrow forms of speech, and this and the kinds of comments that were made online may indeed qualify as that type of speech. I'm not a police officer. I'm a lawyer, and so we are just calling for an investigation to be done. That's all.
Dean Baxendale. Now, 2016 is the year when an Interpol notice was issued against Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The notice said that he is not just a leader of the Khalistan terror force, but he is also running training camps near British Columbia. Then you have Nijjar writing to the Prime Minister. What do you think compelled Mr. Trudeau to not pay attention to what the Indian authorities were telling him and instead believe Nijjar when he says that I am being hunted down for my activism for the Punjabi cause?
Well, first and foremost, I think that intelligence services and agencies for the Indian government and other governments around the world share information and insights with their counterparts. And that would include the Indian security establishment making its case to CSIS, RCMP, et cetera, vis-a-vis the activities of individuals inside Canada that may have committed crimes inside India. However, there is a process, as you know, which is to look for extradition. And the gentleman before mentioned that extradition requests have been made for individuals. If the Indian government had significant proof with respect to this, then those they should have gone through the process. If you're suggesting that Canada did not allow the process, that's another thing. But at the end of the day, I think we're all looking for peace in Canada, peace in India.
Okay, let me quickly have that checked by Mr. Sajjanhar. Is it for a fact that the Indian government just stopped at providing information and did not go through the whole process of actually getting all of these men back? Because Nijjar is just one. There are at least 14 to 20 other people whose dossier has been prepared by the Indian government, Mr. Sajjanhar.
Yes, Padmaja, as I understand that there are more than 25 extradition requests that have been made to the Canadian government. And the unfortunate aspect is that none of these extradition requests, and let me say that extradition requests made to many other governments have led to those people being sent back to India to face trial. Unfortunately, in the case of Canada, not a single extradition request has been met with action on that part. So that is what I was making, the point that I was making, that here Mr. Trudeau is talking about credible allegations while he's completely turning a blind eye to credible evidence that has been given. Because, you know, having been in the government, I know how detailed the whole procedure is as far as extradition requests are concerned. I've been in Geneva. I've handled these extradition requests for some of our fugitives who were based there. These are very detailed information that has to be provided. And I'm sure that all this information would have been provided to the Canadian authorities, but no positive action has been taken even on a single of those.
And we still don't have answers as to why. Now, just look at the difference between what Mr. Nijjar is saying and what he was actually doing, claiming that he's an activist, that he's a peaceful citizen of Canada, while he actually is there firing weapons in the hills of British Columbia, traveling to Pakistan, meeting Khalistani Tiger Force terrorists there, met up with the assassin of a chief minister of Punjab, Bayan Singh. That is the gap between what he claims and what he actually did. Why did the Canadian government not act? We still don't know. Thanks very much, all gentlemen, for joining us with your perspective.